Ajoa Mensa lived in a mansion so grand that people called it the Ivory Tower. Her life seemed perfect. She was the widow of a gold tycoon, with more money than she could ever spend. But despite the luxury, Ajoa was lonely. She spent her days staring at the sparkling chandeliers and walking through empty halls, wishing for someone to share her life. One sunny morning, she decided to visit the bustling Makola market. It was a rare thing for her to step out of her mansion and walk among everyday people. But she missed the energy of the city, the laughter, the shouting, the smell of fresh food. She wore a simple dress to blend in, hoping no one would recognize her. As Ajoa wandered through the market, her eyes landed on a man with a golden smile. He was selling bananas, his hands moving quickly as he handed them to customers. His laughter was contagious, and his voice carried warmth that drew people to him. "Would you like some bananas, madam?" he asked when he saw her watching. Ajoa smiled and nodded. She bought a bunch, but instead of leaving, she stayed to talk. His name was Kwesi. He told her about his life, how he had grown up poor but found joy in the little things. Ajoa found herself laughing at his jokes and forgetting, for the first time in years, how lonely she had been. Before she left, Kwesi handed her an extra banana. "For free," he said with a wink. Ajoa walked away, her heart feeling lighter than it had in years. She didn't know it yet, but this encounter would change her life forever. After that day, Ajoa couldn't stop thinking about Kwesi. His laughter, his kind eyes, and the way he made her feel alive again lingered in her mind. She found excuses to visit Makola Market often, always stopping by Kwesi's banana stall. Each time, they talked and laughed, their connection growing stronger. Kwesi, too, looked forward to her visits. Though he didn't know much about her, he sensed that beneath her elegant appearance was a heart yearning for something real. As the days turned into weeks, their friendship blossomed into something more. One evening, as the sun set over Accra, Kwesi held her hand and said softly, "I don't know how, but you've made my world brighter." Ajoa's heart raced. She had everything money could buy but never felt this kind of happiness before. For the first time in years, she felt seen and cherished. When word got out that Ajoa, the wealthy widow, was spending time with a humble banana seller, tongues started wagging. People whispered behind her back, calling her foolish and reckless. "What does she see in him?" they asked. "He has nothing to offer her." Even Ajoa's closest friends warned her. "You don't belong in his world," they said. "People like us shouldn't mix with people like him." But Ajoa didn't care. She had lived long enough in a world where wealth defined relationships, and she was tired of it. "He makes me happy," she told them firmly. "That's all that matters." Kwesi, on the other hand, felt the weight of their differences. He loved Ajoa deeply but knew society would never accept them. Still, he vowed to stand by her side, no matter what. Together, they decided to follow their hearts, even if it meant defying everyone else. Ajoa and Kwesi knew their love would never be accepted by society. So, they decided to marry in secret. On a quiet evening under the glow of the moon, they exchanged vows in a small, hidden ceremony. Ajoa wore a simple white dress, far different from the extravagant gown she could afford, and Kwesi looked sharp in a borrowed suit. There were no guests, no grand celebrations, just the two of them and a promise to love each other forever. As they walked home hand in hand, Ajoa felt a happiness she hadn't known in years. She had traded the approval of society for a chance at true love. And to her, it was worth it. Little did she know, their journey was about to take a dark turn. Ajoa welcomed Kwesi into her sprawling mansion, hoping they could build a life together. At first, things were perfect. They shared laughter in the grand halls and whispered dreams under crystal chandeliers. But soon, strange things began to happen. One night, Ajoa woke to the sound of whispers echoing through the house. She got up to check, but the halls were empty. Another night, she found a banana peel on her bed, though neither of them had eaten bananas that day. Kwesi dismissed it as her imagination, but Ajoa couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The mansion, once a symbol of her wealth and security, started to feel like a trap. Even Kwesi's behavior began to change. He grew distant, his golden smile fading. When she asked if something was wrong, he would only say, "Everything is fine," but his eyes told a different story. One night, the whispers grew louder. This time, Ajoa could make out the words, "Leave, danger is near." Leave, her heart pounded as she followed the sound through the dark halls. But no one was there. The next morning, Ajoa confronted Kwesi. "Do you hear them too?" she asked. His face darkened. "You need to stop imagining things," he said sharply, walking away before she could press further. Determined to uncover the truth, Ajoa began asking questions. She visited the market, hoping to learn more about Kwesi's past. What she discovered left her shaken. No one knew much about him, but there were whispers of a curse. "Be careful," an old woman warned her. "His family carries a dark secret. Many have suffered because of it." Ajoa's heart sank. Could Kwesi be hiding something from her? Ajoa couldn't let the old woman's words go. That evening, she decided to confront Kwesi about his past. "Who are you really, Kwesi? What aren't you telling me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kwesi hesitated, his gaze dropping to the floor. "There are things you don't need to know," he muttered. Ajoa refused to accept that. Determined to find answers, she searched through Kwesi's belongings while he was out. Hidden in the pocket of his old jacket, she found a small, worn notebook. Inside were pages filled with strange symbols, drawings of bananas, and names of women. Her blood ran cold when she saw the last name on the list, Ajoa Mensa. Next to her name was today's date, circled in red ink. She dropped the notebook, her heart pounding. What did this mean? That night, Ajoa demanded answers. She showed Kwesi the notebook and asked him to explain. At first, he denied everything, but when he saw the fear in her eyes, he finally broke. "There's a curse," he admitted, his voice heavy with shame. "Long ago, one of my ancestors betrayed a wealthy woman who trusted him. Her dying words cursed our bloodline. Since then, every wealthy woman who marries a man from my family meets a terrible end." Ajoa stared at him in disbelief. "And you didn't tell me?" Kwesi looked away. "I thought maybe our love could break the curse. I didn't want to lose you, Ajoa. I couldn't." Tears streamed down Ajoa's face. She felt betrayed but also heartbroken for Kwesi. "What happens now?" she whispered. Kwesi's voice cracked as he replied, "I don't know. But the curse is real, and it's coming for us." The mansion, once a sanctuary, became a nightmare. Every night, the whispers grew louder, their tone more menacing. Ajoa found mirrors shattered without explanation, and the scent of overripe bananas clung to the air, even in sealed rooms. One morning, Ajoa woke to find her bed surrounded by banana peels arranged in a spiral. She called Kwesi, but he stood frozen, his face pale. "It's a warning," he said quietly. Ajoa couldn't take it anymore. "We have to do something," she insisted. "There must be a way to stop this." Kwesi shook his head. "The curse is unbreakable unless," he hesitated. "Unless what?" Ajoa pressed. "Unless you give up everything," Kwesi said. "Your wealth, your home, everything tied to greed. Or," he swallowed hard, "we confront the spirit that cursed my family." Ajoa's resolve hardened. She had built her life around wealth, but what good was it if it cost her life? "Then we'll face it," she said firmly. "Together." Determined to break the curse, Ajoa demanded to know everything about the spirit. Kwesi hesitated but finally relented. "Her name was Mame Efua," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "She was a wealthy merchant, known for her kindness and generosity. But my ancestor betrayed her, stealing her gold and leaving her to die. Before her last breath, she cursed our bloodline, vowing that no wealthy woman would ever find peace with a man from our family. Since then, her spirit has haunted us, feeding on love tainted by greed." Ajoa's heart sank as she listened. Where does she dwell now? Kwesi looked at her, his face grave. They say her spirit lingers in the Makola market, where she died. But confronting her is dangerous. Many have tried, and none have returned. Ajoa clenched her fists. If it's the only way, then we have no choice. Ajoa and Kwesi began preparing for their journey to Makola market. They sought advice from a local spiritualist, a woman named Nana Akojua, who was said to understand the ways of restless spirits. Nana Akojua listened to their story with a grave expression. The spirit of Mame Efua is not just angry, she is vengeful, she warned. If you wish to face her, you must carry a token of her past and offer her what she desires most. What does she desire? Ajoa asked. Justice, Nana Akojua replied. But justice comes at a cost. You must be willing to sacrifice the very thing she cursed. Your wealth. Ajoa hesitated, her mind racing. Could she truly let go of the life she had built? But as she looked at Kwesi, she realized that love meant more than gold. Nana Akojua handed them a small, intricately carved gourd. This will hold her spirit if she accepts your offering. But beware, if she does not, her wrath will consume you both. With the gourd in hand, they set off for Makola market, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on their shoulders. Makola market, usually bustling with life, was eerily silent at midnight. The once familiar paths seemed foreign under the pale glow of the moon. Ajoa and Kwesi walked hand in hand, the carved gourd clutched tightly in Ajoa's grasp. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak of wood echoing like a scream. As they approached the center of the market, a chilling wind swept through, carrying the faint scent of bananas. The whispers began again, growing louder with every step. Turn back, the voices hissed. You don't belong here. But Ajoa pressed on, her resolve unshaken. She called out into the darkness, her voice strong. Mame Efua, we have come to seek your justice. The air grew heavy, and a mist began to swirl around them. From the shadows, a figure emerged, a woman dressed in tattered garments, her face etched with sorrow and rage. It was Mame Efua. Mame Efua's voice was cold, yet it carried the weight of centuries of pain. Why have you disturbed my rest? She demanded, her eyes piercing into Ajoa's soul. Ajoa stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice steady. I know of the betrayal you suffered. I know my husband's ancestor wronged you. I ask for your mercy, not for myself, but for us both. Our love is true. Mame Efua's expression darkened. True love, she spat. Your wealth corrupts it. How can love thrive in greed? Ajoa held up the gourd. Then take it. Take my wealth, my mansion, everything I have built. I offer it to you as justice for what was taken from you. The spirit hesitated, her form flickering like a dying flame. But then her gaze shifted to Kwesi. And you, she said, her voice sharp, you knew of this curse. You brought her here. Do you not bear the guilt of your bloodline? Kwesi dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I love her, Mame Efua. I didn't want to lose her. If you must punish someone, punish me, but spare her. The spirit let out a haunting laugh, her form growing larger and more menacing. You dare to plead for mercy after centuries of pain? Then prove your love, both of you. Sacrifice all that ties you to greed, or suffer the curse together. The ground beneath them trembled as the final test loomed. The air around Ajoa and Kwesi thickened, as if the very world held its breath. Mame Efua's ghostly figure towered over them, her eyes burning with centuries of anger. The ground beneath their feet cracked, sending waves of cold through their bodies. If you wish to survive this night, the spirit intoned, you must prove your love, not with words, but with sacrifice. Her voice was both terrifying and mournful. Let go of everything. Your wealth, your status, everything that made you feel untouchable. Ajoa's heart raced. Could she really give it all up? Could she give up the life she had known, the luxury, the power, the security? She looked at Kwesi, his face filled with a mixture of fear and hope. She saw the man she loved, not the riches he had brought into her life, but the man who had shared his heart with her, despite the curse. Kwesi stood up slowly, stepping closer to Mame Efua. "We are willing," he said quietly. "Take everything we have. But let us go free." Ajoa reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet pouch containing the wealth she had once cherished, the jewelry, the gold coins, the symbols of her success. She placed it on the ground before Mame Efua. "Take it," she said, her voice steady but her heart breaking. Mame Efua stared down at the wealth, her cold gaze piercing through the pile of riches. The wind picked up again, and the smell of bananas grew stronger. For a long moment, the market was silent. Finally, the spirit spoke. "Your love is true," she said, her voice softer than before, though still filled with sorrow. "You have offered everything, even the things most precious to you. But there is still one thing that you must face." Kwesi stepped forward, trembling. "What is it?" The spirit looked at them both, her eyes softening. "You must face the darkness within yourselves. You cannot escape the curse by sacrificing material wealth alone. You must let go of your fears, your doubts, and your guilt. Only then will I release you." Ajoa and Kwesi exchanged a glance. Ajoa knew what this meant. She had to face her own fears of losing everything, the life she had known, her position in society, the reputation she had worked so hard to build. "I am ready," she said quietly. "I have nothing left to lose but love." Kwesi nodded. "And I will follow you. Together, we will face this curse." The market seemed to close in around them as the spirit's power grew stronger. Shadows danced on the walls, and the ground beneath their feet shifted. Mame Efua raised her hands, and the wind howled in response. "Face your inner darkness," she commanded. Ajoa closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She saw flashes of her past, the loneliness in her opulent mansion, the fear of never being loved for who she was, and the empty void that wealth had failed to fill. The chains of her past life had bound her, and she knew she had to break free. Kwesi, too, faced his own demons. He remembered his family's curse, the guilt he had carried for not telling Ajoa sooner, the fear of losing her. But as he stood there, beside the woman he loved, he realized that love had already freed him in ways gold never could. Together, they let go of their fears. They embraced the uncertainty of their future, not as a burden, but as an opportunity to rebuild their lives, together, without the weight of wealth or curses. As Ajoa and Kwesi stood united, their hearts open and free from fear, the ground beneath them began to settle. The wind that had howled around them slowly died down, and the eerie shadows began to fade. Mame Efua's form flickered, and her intense gaze softened, like a storm finally passing. "You have broken the chains that bound you," she whispered. "Love, true love, is not measured by wealth or status, but by the purity of the heart. You have proven that, and for that, I will lift the curse." With a final mournful sigh, Mame Efua raised her arms, and the cold mist surrounding them lifted. The scent of bananas disappeared, and the market returned to its quiet, peaceful state. The spirit's form dissolved into the air, leaving only a faint echo of her voice behind. Ajoa and Kwesi stood in silence, their hearts racing. The tension that had gripped them for so long melted away. They were free. As the first light of dawn broke over Accra, Ajoa and Kwesi made their way back home. The journey to Makola Market had changed them, both in ways they couldn't fully understand yet. They were no longer bound by the past, no longer held hostage by their wealth or the curse that had threatened to destroy their love. Ajoa looked at Kwesi, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "We have nothing now," she said, "but everything." Kwesi smiled back, his golden eyes reflecting the warmth of the rising sun. "We have each other, and that's enough." Together, they returned to the mansion, but it was no longer the grand palace of gold and marble that had once separated them from the world. It was a place where they would build a new life, without fear, without secrets. The mansion felt different now. Without the weight of her past life looming over her, Ajoa could finally breathe. She looked around the once lavish halls, the paintings on the walls, the golden chandeliers, reminders of a life that no longer defined her. "I don't need any of this," Ajoa murmured to herself, looking at Kwesi. He nodded, understanding without needing to hear the words. They began making plans to leave the mansion behind. They sold the property, using the money to start a small business, one that would bring joy and fulfillment without the shadow of wealth. But as they looked forward to this new chapter, they never forgot the lesson they had learned, that love, true love, was worth more than anything money could buy. In the years that followed, Ajoa and Kwesi built a life together that was simple but rich in ways that mattered. They moved into a modest home, where the air was filled with laughter, the warmth of family, and the hum of everyday life. Kwesi continued to sell bananas, but now he did so with a joy that came from knowing he had nothing to hide. Ajoa worked alongside him, helping in the business, and together they built a small but thriving community shop. They became known in their neighborhood for their generosity, their kindness, and their unwavering love. People admired them, not for their wealth, but for their spirit. Makola Market, where it all began, was still a place of bustle and life. But now, it held a different meaning for Ajoa and Kwesi. Whenever they visited, they were no longer the strangers, no longer the wealthy widow and the cursed banana seller. They were just two people, deeply in love, building a future together. One day, as they walked through the market, Ajoa paused to reflect. "Do you ever think about the curse?" she asked softly. Kwesi smiled and took her hand. "I do. But it's not our curse anymore. It's just part of our story." And with that, they walked forward, their hearts full, their souls light, knowing that love had truly conquered all. Years passed, and Ajoa and Kwesi grew old together. Their love never wavered, even as the world around them changed. They lived a life full of joy, knowing that their love was stronger than any curse, any wealth, or any hardship. Their story became a legend in Accra, a tale of true love that defied the odds and overcame the darkness of the past. People spoke of Ajoa and Kwesi as symbols of what love could truly be. Not something bought or sold, but something built on trust, sacrifice, and mutual respect. One quiet evening, as the sun set over the horizon, Ajoa passed away in her sleep. She had lived a full life, loved deeply, and left behind a legacy that would be remembered for generations. Kwesi, though heartbroken, knew that Ajoa's spirit would always be with him. He had been given the greatest gift, the chance to love and to be loved in return. On the day of her funeral, the people of Accra came to pay their respects. Many remembered the rumors about the curse, but now they only spoke of the love that had triumphed. Kwesi stood by her grave, a peaceful smile on his face. "We made it," he whispered. "Together, we made it." After Ajoa's passing, Kwesi continued their work in the market, his heart heavy but full of gratitude. He kept the small community shop open, always remembering the lessons she had taught him. And in the quiet moments when the market was calm, he would walk to the place where it all began, the very spot where he had met Ajoa at Makola Market. There he would smile, knowing that their love had been worth every sacrifice. For love, he knew, had the power to conquer even the greatest of curses. And though the world had changed around him, his love for Ajoa remained timeless.